Hello and welcome to the second instalment of Love for AP50s. Today we're going to talk about the ignition system. The ignition system on the AP50 can be located underneath this cover on the left hand side of the engine. Now, for quick reference, while it's in place, there is a timing mark just inside here. You can see it. I've marked it in black on the flywheel and on the inside of the side cover. That's so that you can check your timing without stripping the whole thing apart. Now, once that's done and you found out your timing's in the wrong place, it then gets a little bit more involved. You have to take this cover off, which is held in with JIS screws all the way around there. Now, don't use the small screwdriver, use the largest one, because that's the size they need to do. If you try to use a smaller screwdriver, you'll knacker the heads up and you'll be in all sorts of trouble. Now, before we explain how to take it all apart and how to adjust, we'll explain what is what first. Now, inside the flywheel, you'll see this lot of stuff. You've got 3 coils, points, a condenser, and the stator plate. For this thing, we'll ignore the 2 lighting coils. If it's a B model, there'll only be 1 lighting coil. But we'll concentrate on the primary coil. Now, the primary coil is a winding that's powered by the magneto spinning and the magnets that are attached to that. That sends a low voltage pulse, power should I say, not a pulse yet, to the points and condenser that are set in parallel to each other. The condenser is like a little capacitor. It stores the energy that's being built up. The points are a switch. And when they open, the power that has been stored in the condenser gets sent up to the secondary coil that's mounted underneath the tank inside the frame. That then goes through the HT lead. This part isn't fitted to your bike as standard. And it goes to the spark plug. Now, the spark plug is a B8HS with the gaps there where the spark will actually occur. Now, the gap for the plug, I believe, is 0.6 to 0.7 mil. The points are available in the cheap, nasty Snoid ones or proper OEM ones. Get the OEM ones, they're much better. The cheap ones, sometimes you can't even set the timing up, and even the adjusting notch, you can see how nice and square that is not compared to a real one, which is a much more defined adjusting notch. Now, even though you've brought these points and they're brand spanking new, you should still check to make sure they're clean. The way you do that is to get a multimeter and put it one contact on one side, one on the other, and then when you do it, they'll show up as a closed circuit. I have now discovered where the pause button is, so I'll be using that a little bit more often rather than throwing away complete videos. We'll now go on how to adjust your points. You adjust your points through this little gap. You measure the gap in the points with these. These are feeler gauges. Now, if yours look like this, which is my cheap and nasty set, you need to give them a bit of a clean. I use these snap-on feeler gauges, a lot cleaner, a lot more robust, and they're stainless, which means that they do not get attracted, see, to the flywheel, because that's a pain in the butt trying to get it in there. You see, with all that happens is you get pulled from one side to the other. So try to get a stainless set if you can. Now the points themselves are adjusted by loosening this screw here, and then using the notch I showed you earlier here, you put a tiny screwdriver in and twist. You want to make sure that you haven't undone that screw too much, otherwise you'll be moving the points all over the place. Next we go on to setting the timing. I think I've shown you already where the adjuster screws go. 1, 2, 3. You loosen those off and they allow you to twist the stator plate either advanced and retard. But so you can get to that, you have to undo this nut here. Use this tool. Put it in there and then undo that nut. This tool locks the flywheel, so you do no damage. It does say in the Haynes man you can do it by putting it in the gear and putting your foot on the brake, but believe me, that does not always work. When you've taken that nut off, you use this tool. This tool has a left-hand thread here, which screws onto a left-hand thread that's inside here. You screw that in, then you use a spanner on this larger hexagonal part to lock it in place, and wind this one in with another spanner that will pop the flywheel off. You'll then be able to adjust it. You've got to replace the flywheel to check it again. There are two or three ways to check your timing and make sure it's okay. You can use the old-fashioned method of a strip of cigarette paper in between the points, but if you can imagine, you've got to try to get that in there, in that little gap. It's not easy, especially now we're getting all a little bit older and our eyes aren't so good. But if you do that, you'll find that what happens is when the points open, you'll be able to pull the paper out. But you don't want to put constant pressure on there. Otherwise, you'll be pulling that paper out before it's ready, just when the pressure's low. So all I do is I stroke it like that with a little bit of pressure. Make sure I only turn the flywheel. You've got to do that while you're turning the flywheel, like that. And when it comes to the right point, you'll be right up here. So you'll only be going from there to there, and then it will come out. I tend to use this tool. Absolutely brilliant thing. They've been around for years, but not many people use them. You get it from these people. They come with full instructions, and the way to use it couldn't be easier. You just unplug this black wire from your magneto loom where it goes into the ignition switch. You connect one of the crocodile clips onto there, the other one onto an earth, and then you turn it on at this switch at the top. You then, and I'll show you how accurate and good it is, you slowly turn the flywheel in the direction of rotation. Oh look, that was quick. You see that goes on and off? When that lights up, that means the points are opening. And if you check on this timing mark here, it says in the Haynes manual it's at 8 o'clock, but I think that's more at 7 o'clock. I've marked both of them again with black marker pen. It'll probably be easier to actually mark it with a bright white Tipp-Ex or something that it's easier to see, but unfortunately I haven't got one of those. If it's not in the right place, you have to take the flywheel off, turn the stator, put it back, and check it again. Now, there are other ways to do it. Once you've all got that in place and it's running, you can then use a timing light. But the timing light is only any good for checking the timing, not for setting it up. You can also use a dial gauge to set your timing. The measurement for the dial gauge is 2.03 millimeters before top dead center. The dial gauge is fitted in place of the spark plug. You have to first find top dead center, mark it on the dial gauge, and then you work it out from there. It is shown how to be used in the official Suzuki manual, just here. But be aware that unlike I thought earlier, the diagrams for setting the timing up are all for the French bike, as are the settings. So ignore those. As you can see, the timing, the advanced timing for the French bike is 1.69 mil before top dead center. But for the UK bike, it's 2.03 mil is the correct time. So that's actually quite a lot of difference. But if you have got a French bike, that's something that's quite useful to know anyway. Just go so we can. I nearly twisted the phone. You can see all the settings there that you need to know. Someone's struggling to get the feeler gauge inside there. And there's a close-up of the point screw that you loosen up. The timing mark that's on the outer casing, as I showed. And that's the one that's inside. There's that. Now, I hope that was helpful to you all, and I hope to speak to you soon.